Okay, that should be working. Okay. Going with this strategy, doing that. Why is Trump bad? He is doing illegal things, brother. Very illegal things. Bad illegal things. It's been a while.
Hello, listen, and I just wanted to add a point that I think would be good to add to your talk today. I think the age of Republicans versus Democrats is telling to what they believe in. For example, there's a lot more Democrats than Republicans under the age of 30, and even more so under the age of 22, 18 to 22, that area. And Republicans tend to be older, so a lot more Republicans are 80, 60, 70, 50, and I think once they pass in 40 years, we might be able to move on and actually make some progress, even though that sounds terrible 40 years from today. But that's how I feel with how things change. We need to get those people out. They need to literally die before anything can happen, because nothing's going to happen until then.
I would not be confident at all that new generations are going to be progressive or liberal, especially with this media environment. I mean, kids have no base of knowledge. They learn the world through their parents, through their peers, through public schooling or private schooling or homeschooling, through their churches and whatever other groups that they're in. And right now, many kids believe completely false things about the world and completely fake things. And the chance that we have a backsliding of ideology for young people is very, very, very scary, very dangerous. Like the Hitler Youth were scary for a reason. They become fundamentalists. Children are the easiest, I guess you could say, target for predatory cults, especially cults of personality. And many of these kids have not gone through much in life. They don't know much about the world, so it's easier to distort their opinion on the world. And one of the best voting bases for Democrats was actually, I think, like between 65 and 80. The real ones that voted anti-Democrat are Gen Xers and all these adults that grew up with lead in their blood. So it's like, it's a tough conversation. We cannot just say it's going to be 100% better in the future. We can go backwards, and we are going backwards, so. Like, these people wake up every day talking about trans people, as if trans people are the scariest thing of all time. Oh no, trans people. Hi Kyle, hi Sri. Why is Trump bad? He is wrong, and yeah. I don't stream at this time, so I probably don't have any viewers right now. It's okay though, I'm just hanging out. I'm trying to get some content recorded. I thought I might as well go live while I do it. Upping my reaction game and my reaction videos and review videos, hopefully. My reaction videos have been getting like 40% likes and 60% dislikes though, because I don't have a base that watches videos. So when I post videos, it's usually meanie pantses doing it. Oh, there's some good ones here. Nice, nice, nice. Adam Conover, he's on one of those shows, right? I don't know much about him.
As an example.
Here you go. Tim Pool. Trump is trying to destroy other branches of government, claims Adam Conover. Defends rogue judges. When they say rogue judges... Oh my god, dude. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. When they say rogue judges... Rogue... I can't say the word rogue, brother. rogue. Go. Hey, what's up, Hanging Man? What's up, Kelly? Whenever Tim Pool says rogue judges, he literally means any judges that uphold their constitutional, power to say something is illegal.
As an executive, is trying to destroy the power of the other branches of government by ignoring their authority, by mounting
but they don't
like
have
aggressive legalistic defenses like the ones that you're making in order to expand the power of the presidency and be able to act with impunity, which is part of why he's sending them. Sure. I mean, look, I'm not a legal scholar. Generally, I would have said that, presidents, I think, tend to follow judicial orders more than Trump tends to, right?
Let me ask you a question. If a judge ordered you to shoot a man in the head, would that be illegal? I'm using an extreme example on purpose. Yeah. It's obviously no.
If there was a law that said you need to do that, technically, yes. By the way, if a judge says, for example, someone's going to get the death penalty, then yes, you're going to tell people they have to hold a gun to someone else's head or their heart or whatever they do for firing squads nowadays. I know they failed a firing squad the other day. Someone did not die. He bled out a very painful death. But yeah, if that's a law, then yeah. But Tim Pool needs to bring up this example because it's like their argument is the judges are forcing the Trump admin to do things. They're making decisions for the executive. No, the executive is doing things. And the judges say, hey, executive branch, this is legal or illegal, and here are steps you can take to fulfill whatever the court orders. Okay? Tim's example here is so brain dead.
A judge can't order you to kill somebody. That's crazy. But we're not talking about a judge ordering Trump to kill anybody. We're talking about judges in, I think we're up to like 87 instances, issuing universal mandates across the entire nation based on lawsuits of single individuals. So for example, a recent one was the transgender military ban. Donald Trump issued an executive order saying, DSM-5 mental disorder, you are now going to be inadmissible from the armed forces and will be severed unless you are not showing symptoms. A judge ruled from this point forward, the military under Trump must admit all individuals regardless of any mental disorder. The judges only have the authority over the people in their courtroom unless it's a class action lawsuit. Universal injunctions are not constitutional.
Like Brown versus Board of Ed. When a person brings a lawsuit.
There is no definitive ruling saying that about these injunctions, these nationwide injunctions. There's different interpretations. And one of the examples they bring up is like if the president wants to say there's a law where he can take everyone's guns away in America, and therefore it's a national security threat. We need to take everyone's guns away. If we cannot have nationwide injunctions, they can do a lot of illegal stuff before it actually gets to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court cannot possibly handle every single case that the executive is going to push on them. And we need to have different courts, different federal courts, to handle the huge tsunami of illegal attempts any president can possibly make. Because if we can't have any type of injunctions, and there's debates on this, there are debates on it, but just in general, the idea that we can't have any other courts make rulings would blow open a huge hole in our freedoms. But I mean, honestly, their arguments about this are so empty because right now they're talking about just not listening to the Supreme Court. MAGA's making arguments that the Supreme Court is simply giving recommendations. They don't have principles. They move to the next power exploitation. So whenever they make arguments like this, it's never in good faith. They are simply authoritarians trying to find loopholes to be more authoritarian.
To the government.
Country, right?
So a person brings a lawsuit to the government about to a judge or the Supreme Court about a law being unconstitutional, and like the ruling should only affect that case. It shouldn't affect
it literally affects the law. It affects the law. So in the issue of lower courts and this universal injunction, lower courts have the authority over the singular individuals in their courtroom unless it's a class action. So they could have made it a class action. They could have sent out the letters. They could have gotten the signatures and said, we need X amount of transgender military servicemen and women because we want this to apply to all. Instead, what happened was, and I'll argue this. This is where it encroaches into the authoritarian. The judge said all means all. That's a quote. This created a huge uproar because it meant that the military now had to enlist schizophrenics. That if someone showed up suffering from manic depressive disorder and they were paraplegic, they were now under this universal injunction entitled to join the military. But I mean, a schizophrenic bipolar who's suffering delusions is not going to be able to complete basic training. Now, perhaps there'd be an argument, as you're saying it, if the judge only said this day will apply just to transgender military men and women, but they didn't. It was a woman. She said it applies to everybody. So Trump said, okay, I'm not even going to defy that. We're going to appeal it. He didn't even ignore the order. They went to SCOTUS, and SCOTUS.
You think Trump even knows any of this was happening?
Probably not.
Well, I mean, I don't think he's
I'd say he probably knew it was happening, but I don't think he had a hand in the day-to-day operations of it.
The actual facts about this, and this is the big danger about Tim Pool being willing to lie on shows like this with guests who don't have the facts, which it's not your fault that you don't have the facts ready for Tim Pool's constant lying. But the idea was based on a class of people, trans people. You could not discriminate against this protective class just on the basis of their class, okay, of their demographics or whatever else you want to say about this person makes them unfit to serve. If trans people can meet all the same medical and readiness standards as anyone else, then they had to be enlisted under these rulings, okay? So the same standards, okay? There was no lowering of standards. There was no bypass that allowed trans people and schizophrenics to join the military. Those are completely disconnected policies, because I'm seeing something about another guideline that was updated in 2017 under Trump that considered waivers for some past mental health conditions. So depression, ADHD, and in some rare cases, schizophrenia. But there's a high barrier, okay, when you say like, okay, well, someone's trans, therefore, if they have gender dysphoria or whatever, they cannot serve. That's not how we treat these things ever. I know tons of people in the military. There are tons of different conditions you can still have and serve. Just being trans, the class of being trans would not prevent you. Now, if you had some type of issue with gender dysphoria that inhibited your ability to serve, that would be a different conversation. But the Trump admin is trying to ban people based on their class, their protected class, that would violate their civil rights.
I mean,
for any boss.
Yeah, it's just funny that we go, oh, Trump said this, Trump said that. Trump, I mean, he certainly hates trans people, but I don't think he's like, and doesn't want them in the military, but I don't think he's like following the day-to-day of the case.
I agree.
He's like, doing loop-de-loops out on the golf course. But like, the legalistic like points that you're making to me, it's all a fig leaf for like the larger thing that he's doing, which is bending the law in these bizarre ways. What is the point of like sending people to El Salvador, right?
This is a really good question, but Kyle just said, what about Stephen Miller suing the Supreme Court under the claim that the judiciary is just an extension of the executive branch because they have to answer to FOIA requests or FOIA? But yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. Like this, why do we have a prison in El Salvador? Let's hear.
Of like sending people to El Salvador, right? To like this prison in El Salvador. Part of the reason to send him there, to send Abrigo Garcia there as quickly as possible, is it just shields him from the rest of the legal system, right? It makes it harder to get him back, right? If you send
he's El Salvadoran.
Yeah, but my point is like he's entitled to due process as someone who's in America, right? If you shove people into this like hole in another country as quickly as possible, it gives you plausible deniability. I don't really give a shit about the various again legalistic like little nuances of the ruling. The important part to me is Trump saying, being under an order to bring the guy back and saying, I can't because the president of El Salvador, my best friend, says he won't return him, right?
How would he get him to do it?
Saying El Salvador is basically a client state of the Trump administration at this point. He'll do whatever he wants. Like, Bukele will suck his dick. Like, it doesn't matter.
Want something in return?
Yeah, sure.
Bukele, okay. El Salvador has a smaller GDP than Atlanta. We are contracting them, paying them as a country to hold these people in their supermax labor camp. All right. There is zero reason to believe Trump could not get him back. If a Democratic senator can go there and see him and have a meeting in person and pressure El Salvador like to that extent, they could get him back. But Kristi Noem and all these other clowns, all these other actors that play dress up, they've said multiple times, we are not going to bring him back. We don't want to bring him back. And remember, I hate going over this every time, but he was not sent to El Salvador on the basis of being from El Salvador, okay? It was on the basis of the Alien Enemies Act saying he's a domestic terrorist. He's or not domestic, but he's a invading terrorist, all right, because he's in a gang. That was the basis. It was not a simple deportation, because if it was a deportation, they would have seen, oh, you can't send him to El Salvador. Send him to a third country And especially if he goes to El Salvador, he's not going to get sent to a torture camp. That's not a deportation. It's a completely different thing. But conservatives like Tim Pool play dumb, because I've seen him talk to other people, and Tim Pool admit what I just said is true multiple times. Like, he talked to Pisco and admit what I just said was true. But Tim Pool still plays dumb after that. So dishonest.
Give him like, they're friends. Yeah. So it's a fig leaf, right? It's like it's in order to the reason to do it is to just make it more difficult to do the right thing.
I suppose the issue is when.
Yeah, but he is right. Adam's right. It's a black site. It's an area where the Trump admin can argue we don't have jurisdiction here, therefore the Constitution and rights do not apply. So we can take someone over international waters and send them to El Salvador, and our Constitution is deactivated. Simple cheat code. That's the purpose of us paying El Salvador and paying for a prison there, because our taxpayer dollars are paying for this dumb prison and the flights.
And Brego Garcia got deported.
It's exploitating.
The administration was like, this is an administrative error.
Exploitating.
It was an oversight on the withholding of deportation.
Exploitating.
The Supreme Court ultimately ruled that Trump must facilitate his return. And now the political debate is, what does facilitate mean? The Supreme Court hasn't clarified, which they definitely need to do when you have two factions arguing. The left argues it means literally bring him back. And
please drop a like and hit subscribe. Please drop a like and hit subscribe.
And the right says, no, it means provide him the means to return should he be able. And then I say, okay, the Supreme Court can literally just come out right now and issue like a writ and be like, no, we mean go and negotiate. However, the other challenge is Supreme Court also stated that no one can direct the executive branch to conduct foreign policy. So this would mean that Donald Trump could get him back in the sense that he could negotiate simple terms very easily. He could literally say to Bukele, listen, you're going to release the guy from prison. You're going to do it. If you want to keep working with us, if you want to.
That's another loophole the Trump admin argued in court. And this would apply for American citizens, by the way. So if you get someone in a plane, you accuse them of being a terrorist, illegal alien, thug, gang member, MS-13, whatever. You get them in a plane over international waters. At that point, it becomes a foreign policy issue. Get them in El Salvador, it's foreign policy, where courts have ruled consistently the president has great power, tons of power when it comes to directing foreign policy. So that's another little loophole the Trump admin is trying to do, which is the purpose of having El Salvador host these individuals, because they want to be able to exploit power.
On our money, you're going to do it. And then we're going to bring him back. Bukele would begrudgingly say yes, probably. There is the concern that Bukele would say, I win my presidency on going after MS-13, you've got to give a concession publicly in some way so that it looks like, but you're not going to, look, if you shrug or not, the issue is, are we going to direct the executive branch through the judiciary to conduct foreign policy? And you can't do that. So I agree, Trump, here's what just happened right now. The executive courts, this is what they have, their immigration courts, should conduct a Zoom meeting with Abrego Garcia, and we're done. It's over. That's his due process. Look, he's an El Salvadoran citizen in El Salvador who was imprisoned by El Salvador.
My point is this:
if Abrego Garcia was brought back again and deported, which would be pretty easy for them, it would be a deportation to a third country. The one place it was illegal to send him to was El Salvador.
There's any number of things that they could do. There's some things that both of us agree that they should do. There's more things that I think they should do than you do.
And the one loophole, they keep on saying that the Supreme Court cannot come in with foreign matters if a president is doing foreign policy. But there's a court case from Boud Median, I don't know how to say his name, versus Bush in 2008. The Supreme Court ruled Guantanamo Bay detainees had a right to challenge their detention in U.S. courts, even though the case involved foreign policy and national security. So even for Gitmo, for Guantanamo Bay, we have precedent where, the people in Guantanamo Bay had more due process than Abrego Garcia did, the people in Guantanamo Bay, and that was a terrible situation. But the courts did rule that in this situation, it was foreign policy, but still rights applied when it comes to the U.S. government enacting state power upon these individuals. If individual rights are violated, which is what happened in this case, the court is 100% in their jurisdiction to say something along the lines of facilitate the return.
But et cetera. The point is, they are loudly and proudly not doing any of that, deporting a guy they know shouldn't be deported.
Hold on, that's not true in any of the media. The media, the full
literally Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi and everyone, dude, and Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard, they literally all have said we don't want him back. We're not going to try to get him back. They've said this multiple freaking times. Kristi Noem could not admit that the picture of the hand was photoshopped. She could not admit it was fabricated.
Reporting that we get across the board from the New York Times to CNN to even Fox News was he was accidentally deported without his hearing on withholding. So it wasn't an intentional, we're going to get this guy and get him out. It was crap.
So when Trump is like holding up photos of his tattoos with like MS-13,
the Alien Enemies Act is not deportation or normal removal. That's why they did not have that's why they did an administrative error, quote unquote, because they did not do any form of due process, even the very low form that we give to immigrants that are being deported. Oh, I hate the lack of facts.
Press conferences about he beat his whether in character, assassination on the guy. Like all of that is accidental.
I'll take your phone calls in a second. People calling in, I'll take your phone calls in a second. If you're watching on YouTube, please drop a like and subscribe. I do a live show. I'm doing a live show right now. I take phone calls after I do a reaction video, so I'll be talking to some people on the phone.
A political attack against Democrats.
Yeah, right. So and so here, let me just get to the end of my point, okay? Is that, they turned it into a political attack because they are acting lawlessly. They're proud to be acting lawlessly. The point is to demonstrate on this issue we will act lawlessly.
True.
You're not safe if you are, even under the protection of a court order in this country, and you should be frightened and you should leave. It's just like it's an authoritarian attack against immigrants directly, and it's designed. It's a leverage of the it's a leveraging of the state to try to frighten immigrants and other groups. Not only illegal immigrants. Okay, so let's talk about the students who have been detained and deported. Right, these are people who are under student visas. Right, they appear at a protest or two, and they're thrown into vans. They're held in these bizarre facilities. They're blah, 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 there's multiple cases.
If you want to say
so the point of this is to frighten people at universities, pro-Palestinian protesters, and that means any protester on the left, of course, and immigrants of all.
Someone said you are only innocent until proven guilty if you're a citizen. Nope, buddy, that's not true. In the Constitution, go read the Constitution. It says every person has due process, because if there was not due process for every person in America, they could just simply claim you're an illegal immigrant. Okay, that guy's an illegal immigrant. He looks like a terrorist. Put him in a plane, El Salvador. Oh, crap, we sent a citizen there? We sent a citizen there? Well, the court told us to get him back, but we don't got to listen to the court. Another big example here would be like, if you defy a Supreme Court ruling for Abrego Garcia, when the Supreme Court says to facilitate this person's return because you're doing illegal stuff, illegal activities are the same amount of illegal whether you like the person it was done to or not. Okay, whether you like that person or not, their rights are still maintained, and their rights are all of our rights. Okay, so if the Supreme Court issues a ruling, the highest court in the world pretty much, and the Trump admin betrays it and does not listen and openly defies it, all right, imagine if there's a free speech case where you say, I don't know, for conservatives, you say the wrong pronoun, all right? And President Joe Biden II says, hey, this guy said the wrong pronoun. That is a threat to our national security interests because trans people are going to protect us from nuclear warfare because they're really good on online video games. We need them to man the AI bots to defend us, okay? And Joe Biden says, due to this, we're going to detain you and send you to El Salvador. And the Supreme Court says, well, they just said the wrong pronoun, Mr. Joe Biden II. I think that's a violation of the First Amendment if you put them in El Salvador for saying something you don't like. And the president just says, well, I actually think that person was like a child abuser. I actually think they're a pretty bad guy. They actually have tattoos, and they actually beat their wife, I think. And they also stole candy from a few babies. So I don't want to listen to that Supreme Court ruling. Like literally any single case, whether it's a citizen or non-citizen, it's the same amount of illegal if they're going to violate Supreme Court orders. And if there's no Supreme Court orders they listen to, we are lawless. We have no laws at all. That is how you fall into tyranny quickly. That analogy sucked, all right? The analogy I just made is literal dog shit. All right, it was not funny. It was not clever. I did not hit any point I wanted to with Joe Biden II. I'm not always good at analogies. I'm not good at that. I apologize, but you get the point. I'm disappointed with myself for making such a shitty analogy, but I hope my point got across. I'm sorry for wasting your time.
Types, including those who are here on legal immigrant visas. Like it's the details of the individual cases don't matter. They like creating a firestorm around someone who is here legally, creating a huge controversy about them, and then saying, we don't give a fuck. We're going to do whatever we want to these people because we want you to be afraid, right? And that to me is that's an expression of like pure authoritarianism. It's a leveraging of state power to frighten undergroups in society that these people don't like. It's like very straightforward. We can mount as many legal defenses as we want of it and say, blah, 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 according to this statute or that statute. But the actual action is just designed to frighten people.
Okay, I'm going to take this under good faith. Okay, someone said only citizens get all the rights in the Constitution. You are right that citizens get some exclusive rights, but the Founding Fathers, very intelligent people, made separations here. They made a very clear distinction, in fact. So, no person, Fifth Amendment, no person. Okay, so in the Constitution, they say citizen, in some areas and person in others. So when they say citizen, that's a right afforded to citizens. When they say person, that is on purpose because it's the rights of persons. It's the rights of persons, okay? So for the rights of persons, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. No person. So citizens and non-citizens do have different levels of rights in some situations. But when it comes to the Constitution, okay, the Fifth Amendment with due process does apply to non-citizens. Think about it. It would not make sense for the government to be able to claim you're a non-citizen and to do something to you. It would also not make sense if the government was going to lock up tourists with no due process. What would happen if you're someone just visiting America? If you're a foreign leader, okay? If you're a foreign leader visiting America, we're going to detain you and accuse you of a crime. No due process. Send you to Guantanamo Bay. Like it would just not function.
People Trump doesn't like, and it's bizarre to see him do it.
Let's say yes, but none of that's illegal. That's all actually codified law that they're allowed to do.
Okay, yeah, sure. It's fucking bullshit. It sucks. It's bad. It's bad for the country. It's bad for the American spirit.
We can talk about a lot of bad things that every administration's done in the past that liberals and Democrats.
Every dude, the final argument when a conservative loses every time, well, everyone does bad things.
Have covered up or participated in or didn't argue against.
Yeah, I guess why. I mean, we're talking about this one currently. It feels disingenuous to talk about one thing the Trump administration is doing because Democrats have done bad things too?
Well, like, for instance, Donald Trump, through Marco Rubio specifically, revoking student visas, saying that these individuals represent a threat to our national security by adhering to our enemies. And literally, that's what they're claiming. I think it's ridiculous to claim that a student who's anti-Israel is working with Hamas. That's silly. But that's the argument he's making, and under the INA, he has the authority to do it. So you say, okay, well, when people come in here on student visas, they do sign agreements saying they won't do certain things. They do it. They get kicked out.
So this is okay with you because it's narrowly legal under Marco Rubio's purview?
I would say what's fine with me is the revocation of a visa for someone who's not a citizen who's here conditionally.
Final comment on this little clip here. So the idea that when the Trump admin does things like this, and takes away visas and cracks down on free speech and violates due process, whenever they make these arguments and say, well, there are legal areas where it makes sense for a president to be able to do this and some precedent. And the precedent they cite is like the freaking Trail of Tears, or like internment camps in World War II, or it's like the most extreme version of executive power, the most authoritarian possible view of the most authoritarian power a president has ever had in the darkest of war times. Their only legal precedent, their only legal backing at this point, they're backed into the corner of, well, we need to bring back laws that we had during our literal Civil War and also World War II. Like there's a reason they need to bring back these authoritarian top-down laws from the big federal government. And they're okay with sending 50,000 ICE agents to go after girls from that are studying here who are doctorate students and social workers for saying the word Israel wrong. There's a reason they need the most perverted form of American democracy or the most perverted form of the Constitution to justify their actions. It's because they're pushing for the Constitution to not matter anymore because they want to violate rights. And Trump has tried to suspend the Constitution on multiple occasions already. And he still wants to this day. He still calls for it pretty much every day. But you don't care because liberals and pronouns. All right, I'll take one call. My format now, guys, just so you know, probably going to do one good phone call and then one reaction video because I really want to get my actual YouTube video content ready. I want to be able to post 3 videos a day. So if you want to call in, I'll give you 2 minutes to call into the show. We can talk about something, have a debate. I usually stream later in the night, so it's a little bit different right now. Thank you for joining me. Please continue to join me. If you want to watch a certain video, if you have a video for me to react to, put it in Discord. Join the Discord. It's in my descriptions, my videos, and my stream descriptions. But yeah, I'm going to watch one video, react to a 10-minute video, take a good phone call. So I'll give it a minute to see if any of you call. How's everyone doing, though? How's life going for you guys? How's life going? How you guys feel about everything? Oh, one story. One second. This is... I want to talk about the Georgia woman, then, that's being kept alive because... I don't know if anyone saw that.
Call from...
Hi, is this Eric Trump, Donald Trump's forgotten son?
No. I'd be a lot happier if I had that type of money, though.
I have one question really quick about Eric. Do you think, if you look at all of Trump's kids, I feel like Trump doesn't like Eric that much. I feel like Eric is the least, favorable child.
I have to think about that one, because, he's kind of the forgotten one. I get where you're coming from. He's not the one that stands out the most, and that might be a good thing. I don't know. so he might be liked more because he doesn't get in the news a lot. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a lot of memes about Eric because you have Donald Trump Jr. out there all the time. You have Ivanka out there all the time doing stuff. So yeah, he seems like the person that's never really. He's doing business still, but they don't like him on camera. He's not very personable. Like the other
he's
ones
not
are.
really a target of anything, is he?
He's kind of boring,
like
honestly.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, he's not like you don't see hit pieces on him, no matter what side you're looking at. In that.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, but yeah. What do you want to chat about?
So, let me ask you. You have this poll up about should Trump support or what? Should he listen to the Supreme Court?
Mm-hmm.
My question to you is, what would you think if he doesn't listen, which I think is probably going to happen personally? What do you think that looks like?
I think once courts stop mattering, and I don't bring up these names for meme purposes, but like fascist Italy, Nazi Germany, Mao's China, even Putin's Russia, like even the attacks on courts in Hungary, and El Salvador, like typically when you have the court system fall apart, the courts are the final measure that protects against authoritarianism. And this doesn't even need to be Trump, right? I mean, I think Trump is concerned about golfing and making some money for the Trump brand, maybe doing some things that seem popular every now and then. But he does like his cryptocurrencies and all that stuff. Even for future presidents, like I could see like a Josh Hawley or even someone super far left exploiting the idea that the courts don't matter. I do think we would have like a complete restructuring if Supreme Court rulings just don't matter to anyone.
Let me ask you, because it kind of backtracks, because my argument would be that the courts have been broken for a long time, and that you can see this exemplified no matter what side of the aisle you're on. You can both look at cases where you would say the courts failed us in this occasion. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's some rulings I disagree with, but that's kind of one of the things that keeps our country stable for so long is our co-equal branches.
Okay, but let me ask you, if the judiciary was found to be fraudulent and corrupt, what would the remedy be? Past impeachment? Because I know impeachment is a potential when dealing with corrupt judges, especially at the federal level. You can vote people out, but sadly, voting is also a 4-year affair, and you have problems with, distilling down how long does each process of removal take. So when you have a corrupt judiciary, what's the remedy for that?
If there was right now, Clarence Thomas is probably the most corrupt when it comes to money that he's received from different oligarchs from Russia and China and a bunch of different countries. He's gone on very, very luxurious vacations, and also there's no ethical concerns for any of the Supreme Court justices. There's no limits at all. Like they're the only judges that could take endless amounts of just like gifts and money, and it's a really, really bad system.
Okay, but this goes. Okay. This is like I said. This isn't just a right issue. This is a corruption with the judiciary on the left and right. No matter who's appointed, because that's all window dressing.
Okay, well, let me answer it fully then. Like right now with Trump and Bosberg, for example, they're mad at Bosberg. This is a guy appointed by George Bush. I saw Trump go after judges he appointed himself. If Trump is getting denied by Trump judges, Bush judges, Reagan judges, and every single type of lawyer who's not just
why are you thinking there's sides to this?
Because I'm not saying there's sides. I'm saying that if, for example, Trump is getting denied by his own judges on things, and his conservative Supreme Court is 6-3. But okay, no. Okay, listen to me. His 6-3 Supreme Court is against him. A Supreme Court that should be in his favor. He put 2 of them on, or was it 3? Yeah, he put 3 of them on there. At that point, I would probably say if Trump says it's corrupt at that point, I think he's just doing things that are illegal. But if you want a real answer on how to fix a corrupt system, if there's really corruption and big issues with a court or a court that won't change, I would say there should be enough public pressure to elect new people in Congress, and then Congress can reform the courts. That's always going to be the way to keep things stable.
What if I'm sorry for jumping on you here.
You're good,
a little bit. What if Congress is corrupt?
If Congress is corrupt,
if Congress is corrupt at the same time, the judiciary is corrupt.
Then you would need to have public support for changing Congress. But I would never say like remove like judiciary. I would go through the elective branch and the representative branch that we elect all of our senators and House members to go through that method. We have to vote them out.
Okay. What would happen hypothetically if Trump obviously is going to ignore the Supreme Court? I think that's a given. I think we're at a point when we've seen enough judiciary overreach, in my personal opinion, and this can go even to the New York cases that he was and I can't remember offhand which one it was. It may have been the E. Jean Carroll case. It may have been that one. It may have been the other one with the cats one. I can't recall, where they extended the statute of limitations for the case because of COVID, and there was a whole bunch of legal chicanery going on there, okay? But my argument would be, if we can show that the judiciary is broken, possibly Congress is broken, the remedy for what Trump wants to do with this illegal situation, and this is kind of how I'm looping back to the problem at hand, is at what point do you think he declares martial law?
Well, I'll say right now there's zero justification for Alien Enemies Act or Insurrection Act or martial law. There's zero possible logical reason for even thinking about that. But I do think Trump is trying to force a situation in which it kind of justifies him doing martial law based on his like fear campaigns and propaganda campaigns. If he does do martial law, it's going to be mass public demonstrations. Like, that is a coup of the government if Trump actually does do that with. The hard part is that the House is going to vote for Trump no matter what, because they are just like literal, just like cult followers. And when it comes to thinking the judiciary is overreaching, like Trump has been overreaching, doing unprecedented things with executive power. So like, if the executive overreaches the way Trump has, the judiciary is going to need to overreach in order for our checks and balances to maintain with their co-equal branches. So that's the reason there's so many injunctions against Donald Trump right now. He's done more executive orders. He's done 3 times more executive orders, I believe, than FDR has at this point. And you know FDR did a lot of executive orders. So.
No, I get where you're coming from. I guess, and I also understand, and when I say this word, please don't take it as a negative. It's that the fear of this happening, because it is very likely. And when you enact certain things, you can't really control how the fallout of that's going to happen. And the problem is, you have him in control of the military. And if you cannot get state, as much as I'm not a fan of Kim Pool often cites, the Civil War trope and meme. Mm-hmm. How close do you think we are from your side?
I mean, I don't think we should be close at all. I think the reason, if we do have a big conflict, is pretty much just because of the propaganda state making us afraid of the world and being like, oh, like, I think Tim Pool's a big part of this, by the way, because he's been in the White House. He's been doing private meetings with like Netanyahu, for example, in Israel. So like, he is part of this whole campaign to make everything seem crazy. But even during the 1992, like, think about the Rodney King protest, like after Rodney King happened, or think about even during like World War II or the Vietnam protest. Like, we had things like Kent State, but the idea of suspending habeas corpus and doing martial law, like in these extreme social scenarios, was not even thought of. And now we're on the brink of doing that in a situation where we're at like probably one of the lowest crime rates in our nation's history and the most global peace in our nation's history, in globe's history. No, I'm saying by I know you beg to differ, but in terms of raw facts, and I think also the fact that people think the world's so dangerous right now, it always is dangerous. I don't want to like dismiss any concerns. It always is dangerous, but it's less dangerous now by far than it was in the 1990s, 80s, 60s, 70s, or whatever. But people seem more apt to have like a civil war now than they did back then. And I think it's because Trump is trying to push executive power. And if Trump can cause mass protest, then he can justify using more executive power to do something like that, which would be really, really scary.
No, and I did vote for the guy. Now, I voted for certain aspects, but I also kind of wanted to see, because like, I'm kind of at the point now, what is it, all these years on, we're looking at 2 wings, same bird scenario. I don't think there's a damn difference between the two sides, really. And we're trying to find a balance because we don't want to go too far in the pendulum one way or the other. We try to walk through that narrow valley. But we're at a point where the morals of what side you're on, whatever wing of the bird you want to pretend, are so friggin' extreme that we're here because let me ask you really quick, because I know I'm kind of monologuing here. So do you think our judiciary system generally is not corrupt and our system is generally not corrupt?
I think the judiciary is by far the least corrupt part of our government by miles and miles and miles. I think like corruption in politics, like this is a big thing though. Like, I think the parties respond to they do respond to the pressure voters give them, because there's a reason that Democrats increased VA funding and increased cancer research, and Trump cut the VA by 80,000 workers and cut cancer research in half, because they do respond to their voters in some sense, and Republican voters don't care that much about cancer research being funded. So like there are differences, and Democrats want to raise taxes on the wealthy to at least like the Bush levels or the Clinton levels, and Republicans want to Republicans want to bring it down even more and do tariffs that are going to be a big tax on the working people of this country.
That's all kind of superficial stuff, because
those are very real policy differences.
Well,
man.
they are real policy decisions, but at the same time, we're kind of looking at mass chaos, and that's not me being a paranoid individual. We're looking at things happening, kicking off in India and Pakistan, which is always a hotbed. We have Ukraine and Russia still going on. People fear-mongering over that. We have the entire Israel versus everyone else in the Middle East going on for damn too long now. We have a border that has been weakened and not strengthened, finally, to Trump's credit, when I see credit. He has tried to address that. But when you have, in my personal state, we recently had a judge get arrested with an MS-13 gang member in their home that he was partying with and stuff. And then you have the famous ranch here with a certain individual who had an island, which was running some sort of blackmail government scheme. That's a whole other issue.
The person you're talking about, it doesn't seem. Wait, 1 second. Alleged. I'm trying to see if there's any proof of gang affiliation, because I just see alleged everywhere.
But you're seeing. I mean, I can't think of the guy's name, but there was a judge, Southern, in not El Paso, Las Cruces. I think it's Las Cruces. Might be near Las Cruces, New Mexico.
I just don't want the government to be able to extend the overreach of executive power based off of a lot of fear and paranoia, largely.
But what if, can I ask you the weird question? And this is always the thing about paranoia. What if the paranoia is correct?
Right now, objectively, when I talk to Trump voters, they are living in a very mentally ill place when it comes to their mental state. And I think it's because of a deterioration of community. Communities are falling apart. We don't talk to each other anymore. It's because of social media. And I think social media is like 99% of the problem right now. But there's no reason to be talking about civil war and martial law. Even these like immigrants, even Tom Homan himself admit that illegal immigrants are usually family people that don't really cause that much crime. Like he was just on like Sean Ryan's podcast, I think, and Tom Homan admit like most of these are good people, but they're here illegally. So like when they fearmonger about this, and there's no evidence of these individuals being gang members, and also like some of these individuals in like Venezuela or El Salvador, they may have been forced into gangs and escaped to America on the asylum claims with like legitimate claims and have been here doing all the right steps for years and years. Like there's complicated things here.
I'm cool with you. I get it. Life's shitty. Can I swear in this? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. The problem is that if you're doing, let's say for one of your examples was that someone down in Venezuela was forced to join a gang and they're like, oh crap, I don't want to do this and I gotta leave. So they're supposed to go to the first country of safe harbor. They're not supposed to track across an entire continent, a microcontinent, and then end up at our doorstep, and then not politely, but sneak in under a wire bush sort of deal. Because there's a big difference between people coming in and filling out the paperwork, knowing who's here, and you can get into that entire the Palestinian gal and guy who were deported. That's a whole separate issue. But in general, you come here, you fill out the paperwork, you can get let in. America's, if nothing, if not in love with its bureaucracy.
No, but a lot of these individuals like had to go to other countries first and got denied, or there was not a process set up. Which one good thing Biden did do on immigration was he really kickstarted a lot of the Central America, like Guatemala, Mexico, being countries that'll accept, asylees that are looking for asylum claims. So like there are like issues in asylum law, but the issue right now, the big issue, the big elephant in the room, is that Donald Trump has signed the most executive orders by far in American history and has passed the lowest number of actual laws. And he could easily get a border bill done to change asylum laws if he wanted to, but they're hell bent on doing executive overreach and violating and finding legal loopholes. If they wanted to fix these laws you're talking about, they could change the laws like today. If Trump said do an immigration bill, you know that Democrats would be forced to vote for it. A lot of Democrats would be forced to vote for it because they did under Biden too. That one border bill that they killed, but they could fix it through law, the legal process. So we can talk about immigration being bad or whatever. But the big debate here is the unconstitutional, the illegal acts, the suspending habeas corpus, the suspending the Fifth Amendment, Fourth Amendment, 14th Amendment. So I don't agree. I don't disagree. There's problems, but Trump is leading us to a possibly a situation we can't recover from at a societal level because he wants to violate the law when we don't need to do that. We could work through Congress easily to fix these issues that you have.
What is the remedy, though? Hypothetically, let's say you're wrong. What does that mean? If Trump, hypothetically, because here's the problem. There's a problem being right for the wrong reason and wrong for the right reason, sort of deal. What if Trump's right for the wrong reason and the bad things happen, but because he's right? Because we're dealing with a corrupt Congress. I think people on both sides will always say that Congress is a cesspool, pop up your Star Wars memes. But
most of the corrupt Congress people are on the Republican side is the only issue. Rick Scott, for example. Like Rick Scott has done the biggest case of Medicaid fraud in almost American history, and now he's talking about Medicaid fraud, trying to kick poor people off it.
Historically, all through time, you got your Nancy Pelosi, Zinger, Scott issues.
And we need to vote them out. We need to vote them out, not throw away the Constitution, not threaten our entire republic because voters are too lazy to get off their asses and vote different people in. You realize Mitch McConnell wins all the time, Nancy Pelosi wins all the time, Mike Johnson can win. Voters need to stop being pushovers and get off their asses and actually do something and actually learn some shit about America. I'm sick of people saying we should break our entire Constitution because including young people, by the way, young people too, don't want to get off their freaking asses and actually organize and do some shit. And this includes conservatives that cry in suburbs and never actually meet people.
Any of this matters, and this isn't me being completely.
It does matter. I can tell you why it matters. I've studied policy very closely.
Can I explain why I think it doesn't matter? Because you're under the perception that voting. Okay, so you talk to people on the right, you talk to people on the left. I like to pretend I'm in the middle. You're dealing with a system that a lot of people already think is corrupt, including the voting of it. Now, you can look at both sides who have dismissed election results, period. Doesn't matter, going back to Clinton or Hillary, and then Trump. You have it all over.
There's no comparison at all. There's no comparison at all between Hillary and Trump. Hillary said one thing about the Russian influence and never said anything again. Trump still says it was stolen. He pardoned the January 6th cop beaters. He led January 6th. Like Trump is using the office to go after his own administration that certified the election now. No comparison at all in American history for election denial to what Trump did. There's no comparison. It's not even close.
There has been. What was the election? They've had elector issues prior. I think it was back during Kennedy and Nixon. It might have been. I'm kind of spacey on that, but I'm pretty sure that elector issues, because there's the entire idea of the false electors that were certifying the election back in 2020.
There was an issue with there was a state like Hawaii. Tim Pool brings this up where it was a very close election. All they said was, we're going to send two sets of electors because it's so close and we're not going to delay the process of counting any longer. So we're going to send both of them, and whichever side in our state actually wins, that elector is going to count. What Trump did is he knew he lost. He lost every court case. There's no evidence at all saying that any votes were stolen or anything in 2020. He still lied about that. On January 6th, he said Mike Pence refuses to save the day and refuses to violate the law, and he's like an enemy to us as they're breaching the Capitol. Like, all this stuff is just like, okay, you can say that there's been questions about elections in the future, but Trump has done a million times. It's not even close what Trump has done. You could say that politicians have profited from politics before. Trump has made multiple times like billions more than any other politician from politics in American history as well. We can go to that as well.
Is that why he doesn't take a paycheck? So
yes, actually. So do you know about his cryptocurrency?
Well, see, here's the thing about the crypto. I'm not a crypto bro, and I think crypto's kind of dumb. But I'm not 100% sure. I think Trump, like, going to the business side of who he is, he's a product. He sells out his likeness. He has board games. He has water. He has things with his name on it, because people want to be associated with him. So I think a lot of the stuff that he may hawk, or may, like the Bible thing, which I think
I'm sorry, but this is the big issue right now. Is you're saying you care about like corruption in politics, and it's so corrupt that we gotta overturn the whole system. But then I bring up a clear point of the biggest corruption scheme in presidential history, and you're like, you're justifying it. You realize that? Like, this is how it happens.
No, I'm not justifying it. I'm explaining it.
Okay, TikTok ban. Do you know TikTok?
First off, what?
You know the TikTok ban?
Oh yeah, the Chinese thing. Yeah.
Do you know why he has not banned TikTok yet?
No, tell me.
Just last week, a Chinese billionaire dumped $300 million into the crypto coin that went right to Trump's pockets. That's one example of Trump violating laws or not enforcing a law based off him getting donations from the Chinese government, allowing their state surveillance device or application to be on American phones because they paid him off through the cryptocurrency, which is pretty much untraceable. Although he is having a competition, if you're a top 25 crypto purchaser of Trump coin, you get a special tour through the White House and special connections to Trump. If you're top 200, you get a special dinner with Trump and special access to the presidency. Just literally giving Trump money directly. Cryptocurrency means that Trump makes money from transaction fees, and he gets money from the actual cryptocurrency itself, from the stakeholders he has when they pull money out of it. So, like, this is the biggest corruption scandal. This makes Nancy Pelosi look like a manager at McDonald's, okay, with her level of insider trading, okay?
Can I not deflect you a bit, but are you trying to compete with Ben Shapiro for most words said without a breath?
Yes, because I could say more things. I will talk in a very soothing tone from now on.
Well, it might help. I guess, because I'm just, because here's the thing. I do think the crypto thing is dumb and gay and fake and gay and however else you want.
It's not fake. It's the president receiving billion. Okay. It's the United States president using the White House, using the U.S. government and U.S. military to get paid from foreign powers, including Qatar. He's bumping elbows. He's rubbing elbows with the guys who caused 9/11 and who were happy about 9/11, saying they're his best friends now because they paid him off.
Wait. Are you saying the people who danced?
No, oh no. I mean, literally in the Middle East, in Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Syria. Like, literally the leader of Syria said that they were happy on 9/11, and Trump said he's the best person in the world. Like, and I'm not against having communication with Syria, by the way, but the fact that Trump is acting like they're his buddies because they bought him off, it's an example of the president being the most corrupt president in American history. No one cares, man.
I can't defend that. I mean,
no, I understand that. I appreciate that.
And part of it is I think crypto is fake and gay. So, like, I have a certain perception of that, but if he's banking on the back end of crypto, I get how there might be some FDIC, some bank laws or something that might be going hanky, and I'm cool with that. The problem is, well, when I say cool with it, not that I'm cool with it, but I get where you're coming from. The problem overall is we have all these different legal avenues, it seems, going on where he may actually even be breaking the law with this thing. Okay, I'll even give you that. Does it diminish how the other branches are breaking the law also at the same time?
I think so, because if you can't hold the president accountable, who's the most corrupt, it shows why we cannot hold other politicians accountable. Like, that's why we cannot vote Congress people out, is because American voters are just, like, making bad decisions.
So what if the military just took over?
I think we should just blame American voters a little bit, because we have to blame American voters for not doing their due diligence, not doing their work, and not having personal responsibility.
That's under the assumption that voting is even
Okay, but
I
the
mean, I
question,
get
what
what
if the
you're
military
saying
takes
about
over, is
that,
literally, so you're advocating for a military rule dictatorship then?
I'm not advocating for it. I'm saying what's the option, because we're heading, like, I don't think there, like, I hate, I'm not a fan of Tim Pool. I'm not. But when it comes to some of the Civil War talk, he does say, and even with this conversation with Adam that he kind of flipped off on, and
Okay.
I'm sorry for taking up your time. Tell me to shut up, please.
You're good.
Where's the off-ramp? Because this isn't going to, like, you have at least 50% of the population right now of Americans who think the Joe Biden administration was fraudulent and stolen. You have a certain subsection of that who thinks that corruption goes back farther. You have people on the left who think almost the exact same thing, but slightly blurred. So once again, we're not sure who to really properly blame.
Okay, here. I have a whole answer. Just give me a couple minutes, all right? So, if we want to have an off-ramp, we need people to watch Jolah Talks Politics. Not joking, but we need people to watch individuals who do not have a profit incentive to lie. Like Tim Pool did get paid by the tenant media. If he's not being paid by Russia, he's very gullible because he did not know it was from Russia. So if he just trusts getting billions of dollars or millions of dollars from a random billionaire somewhere that wants to fund his show, then he's gullible, or he's willing to sell narratives to make money. Okay, so people like him who say civil war, civil war, civil war, he has fancy mansions, or Joe Rogan even, who has fancy complexes. They can buy a bunker for the nuclear war. It doesn't matter if we all fall apart around them. Like, don't listen to these people that want us to fight each other. We need to come together as a country. There are ways through government we can all work. In governments, whether it's school board or city councils or borough councils or county commissioners, governors, state house, state senate, Americans do not engage with any levels of government. These races might have 10% turnouts for a lot of them. If these races were paid attention to diligently, if Americans took the personal responsibility to understand what they're voting on and how they're voting, and understood every system in this country from the smallest elections to the biggest elections, and they didn't treat it like some type of NFL Sunday football game that they're just like really mad over. If Americans stop this like pampered victim mentality, acting like we have no control over our future, like, yes, big money's an issue, yes, corruption's an issue, but we can't just like fight each other in that process. What are the actual laws we can do? Politicians are tools. They respond to different influences, whether it's unions, whether it's people who have a lot of money, whether it's people who control media companies, whether it's other politicians, or even some are probably corrupted with foreign influences. Maybe some politicians have a great perspective in mind, but the system makes them act in a certain way. We need to understand the actual way politicians act as tools. Then we can shift the environment to be more conducive to politicians, so their incentives are not to pay, not to do things for their donors. Their incentives are not to do things for foreign governments or to take paychecks from random companies or speaking fees. Their incentives need to be to support the American people and to care for the American people. But the main reason that politicians are not doing everything in their power to serve the American people is because the American people are not doing their role. The American people are not doing their research. The American people are not coming together as communities. We're all isolated on our phones and in our houses with our huge flat screens, complaining about literally every little thing in the world. Never talking about how we come together to build something better in this damn country. We never talk about building. We talk about tearing shit apart. We talk about deportations. We talk about fighting over what pronoun is the best pronoun. I'm completely on board with all of those things, by the way, but we cannot be obsessed with microaggressions and everything to a point where we cut off possible future allies that do care about other people. We have a lot of people in our society that do truly care about each other, that we need to be able to access where they are to move them in a better direction. Or all these goblins and all these weenies that are controlling our system by spreading propaganda that is convincing us to currently go for like freaking military rule or whatever. We need to actually come together and do our job, so the incentives in the system do not go to a civil war, where they instead go to systemic reform. And if we don't do that, this country is going to collapse. If we keep on going the social media route, this country is going to collapse. If people don't show the hell up, I don't want to hear them blame politicians for the shit they caused, because the American people caused many of these problems. The American people were sleeping at the wheel, guiding us into fascism or authoritarianism or corruption. The American people have voted for this. Democracy is something that politicians do respond to, but the issue is the American people are not waking up yet, and we can do that. And if you follow Jolah Talks Politics, we're going to talk about how we come together as communities to really solve the issues we all care about. Nice. Sorry, I had to do it.
Yeah, I'm glad you get it out of your system.
No, I appreciate the questions and conversation. And honestly too, like people that'll carry these conversations in a more like I'm sure you see people on YouTube and different personalities. I try to approach things in more of just like a general conversation. Like if I met you at like a diner somewhere and we were shooting the shit, like I don't want to talk about like I don't want to be like super debate bro about it, but that's how you make content on YouTube. So I need to, but I definitely want to reach people on a more real level.
Fail. Just put the massive words fail.
Fail.
Trump
Dominated.
Supporter smacked it down, beaten,
Trump supporter
destroyed, and big
craps his pants on camera.
fans.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate the call.
I mean, yeah, I'm glad you talked about it because it's something that I do think we're heading into a place where unless we can find, and I can't believe I'm saying it, some sort of common ground in this ideologically, philosophically, any type of suffix you want to add to that, we're in a world of shit.
I agree. Even on the issue of policing, there's no reason the right and left cannot find a pro-police message. Like one big thing that really helps police be safer and also communities be safer is having more community events where law enforcement is publicly facing, so you know who law enforcement is, so you can like right now I feel like they build houses with no porches, no one's talking to people. Like we could have a pro police message, we could have a pro healthcare message, we could have a pro America message that doesn't leave people out, but we do need to get over a lot of things.
I don't know if that's possible either.
I think it's definitely possible. Never say can't.
I don't want to say can't. I'm just not sure if we're in a place where that can be realized, either due to the scope of the problem, the scope of cities, the differences in people, and how there's not that common bond of whether you want to call it a morality or not. You have people, like I said, at least half of the people think everything's a shit show and it's all corrupt, but then you have the other half thinking it's all fucked up too.
We have to challenge each other too. We have to see it as a team, like we're on a team together. You could have rivalries on the same team. Like you could have rivalries on who's going to start in the game and who's going to be better at practice, but you have to be like challenging each other in a respectful way that's like, hey bro, like you believe things that I think are stupid. I'm not going to call you a racist, evil person. I mean, maybe you are. I might call you that.
I am. I'm a horrible, horrible person. I'm telling you.
But dude, if you watch Tim Pool 24/7, I understand why you think we need a civil war. Like that's
I
the
don't
only place
watch
you get
it
information
God,
from.
I would have to do like acronyms that start with a K and Y end with a have a. Well, you know where I'm going with that. If I had to watch him that much, no, God, no. But the thing is, part of it is I'm also trying to withdraw. And it sounds kind of weird. At this point in the game, I'm trying to pull out. But I was curious because I came across your channel, and I was like, I don't agree with this guy. But I'll listen to him.
Well, stop by. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate having you could be a hate watcher who doesn't hate me. Because I still appreciate hate watchers that'll disagree, but they're vicious in the chat. But I hope you keep on watching. Thank you for calling in, and
thank
hope to see you around.
Thank you. No problem. Take care.
Have a good one. You too. Good conversation. What a nice guy. What a nice fellow. Officer Tatum. You mean Officer Gatum? That's a good conversation. He just said it. Ideology. Project 2025. Someone's saying 8647. Not a repeat info show? I mean, I do. It is hard though. For real. Because repeating information is the easiest way to do it, right? Because I don't understand any issue. I make up everything I say. Everything I say is fake. Sri. Thank you so much, Sri, for $5 on Venmo. Thank you, Sri. King Sri. Can you guys go like my videos? Like, I'm really sick of my videos not getting any viewers. For real. Not gonna lie. I'm gonna restart my stream, guys. My stream numbers are dead. I don't have any callers. If you're trying to call in right now, just give me a second. I'll be right back. I start new YouTube Shorts streams because the YouTube Shorts algorithm is really weird. Like really weird. I don't know how to understand it. My algorithm's somewhere in between React content on YouTube and YouTube Shorts streams and other YouTube streams. So I'll relaunch my stream in a second. One moment. I'm going to redirect you to a video that I want you to watch later. Never mind. I think I lied, to be honest. What am I doing right now? Oh, yeah. Never mind. I can't redirect you. My recent 2 videos on Charlie Kirk, if you can watch those and drop a like, really helps the algorithm. The one that says college Trump voter rips Charlie Kirk for Trump's illegal deportations. That one, if you go on my channel and you're able to drop a like on there, it'd be really helpful for the algorithm. Not gonna lie. Thank you for watching that, if you can. Okay, the issue, James, is that you think facts are your opinions. So you want me just to say your opinions back to you. You silly goose. I need to see the sun. Redirect me out the basement, please. LOL. Okay, I'm restarting the stream again. I'm gonna go for another hour. Thank you, thank you, thank you. See you guys in a second.